I found my wife cheating with her boss on our wedding night. Then she forged my signature to sell our home for $350, $0, and gambled away the money. Now she's accusing me of financial betrayal. How do I fight back? I never thought my wedding night would turn into a nightmare, but it did. The moment I walked into our hotel suite and found Sarah in bed with her boss, Mark, I knew my life was about to change forever. It was like a bad movie playing out in real life, except it was my wife, my future, and the betrayal cut deep. I'd always had a gut feeling something was off, but I never expected to catch her in the act. That night, everything I believed about her, about us, shattered into pieces. Sarah was a bitchy woman from the start, always demanding, manipulative, and quick to lie. She'd spin stories to cover her tracks, but that night, there was no denying what I saw. Mark, her boss, was half naked under the sheets, and Sarah was laughing like it was some kind of joke. I stood there, stunned, unable to speak. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I couldn't process what I was seeing, but I knew this was the moment everything changed. I kept my cool for a few seconds, then I stormed out of the room. I didn't want her to see me cry or get angry, at least not yet. I wanted to gather my thoughts, figure out what the hell I was going to do. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew she'd lie her way out of it as she always did. Sure enough, when I got back home, she was acting innocent, saying I was paranoid, accusing me of being jealous or insecure. She told me Mark was just a friend, that I was overreacting, but I knew better. Over the next few days, I started noticing more things. She was secretive with her phone, deleting messages, sneaking around. Then I found a hotel receipt in her purse, one she claimed she'd forgotten about. It was from the night we got married. That's when I started digging. I hired a private investigator, and what I uncovered made me sick. Sarah and Mark had been sleeping together for months, long before our wedding night. They'd even gone on trips together. And she'd lied to me about everything. But that wasn't even the worst part. I discovered she forged my signature on documents to sell our house, our family home. She sold it for $350, $0, and I had no idea. I found bank statements showing she gambled away the money in online poker games and at casinos. All the while, she was telling me she loved me, that I was her everything. Meanwhile, she was cheating, lying, stealing from me. Everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. It hit me hard. This was not just an affair. It was betrayal on every level. I felt like I'd been robbed, not just of my house and money, but of my trust and dignity. I was furious, but also devastated. I didn't know how to process all this at once. I was angry at her, yes, but I also felt betrayed by myself for not seeing the signs earlier. I thought about all the times she'd lied, all the moments I'd dismissed my instincts. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Part of me wanted to fight her, expose everything, take her to court, get my money back and make her pay for what she'd done. But I also knew revenge wouldn't bring me peace. Still, I couldn't just let her get away with it all. I needed a plan. I started thinking about how I could fight back legally and emotionally, and how I could regain some semblance of control over my life. That night, I sat alone, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what had happened. I felt broken but also determined. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. No matter what, I'd find a way to come out of this on top. I just didn't know how yet. But one thing was clear, I wasn't going to let her win. After discovering everything, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. The betrayal cut deep, but what hit me even harder was realizing how much she'd lied and manipulated me. Sarah, my wife, she's always been the kind of woman who'd twist things around to her advantage. She's bitchy, stubborn, and when she's caught in a lie, she doubles down and spins a new story. That's exactly what she did after I confronted her about the affair and the forged signatures. She looked me straight in the eye and told me I was overreacting, that I was just insecure and jealous. She called me paranoid, said I was imagining things, that Mark was just a friend. But I knew better. I had seen the texts, the messages she deleted, the hotel receipts, and I had hired a private investigator to confirm everything. When I finally sat her down and laid it all out, her face turned red, then white. She tried to deny it, of course, but I had the evidence. She was caught red-handed, sleeping with her boss, forging my signature, selling our house, gambling away the money, all of it, and her excuses, they were pathetic. She said she was stressed, that Mark was just a distraction, that I was just being paranoid. Yeah, right. The emotional toll hit hard. I felt anger, betrayal, sadness all at once. I remember sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, feeling like I was drowning. My mind kept racing, trying to process how someone I loved and trusted could do something so cold and calculated. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? How could she lie to my face for so long? I felt humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool. I kept replaying all the moments I ignored my gut feelings, all the times I dismissed the little things that didn't add up. The worst part was knowing she had completely manipulated me. She'd come home late, lie about where she was, delete messages, and then deny everything when I questioned her. She'd turn it around and blame me, say I was insecure or that I didn't trust her. But I did trust her. That's what makes it so painful. I trusted her with everything, and she betrayed me in the worst way possible. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about her stealing from us, lying to my face, and destroying what little trust we had left. After days of feeling numb, I finally decided I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there and let her get away with it all. I started researching what I could do legally, how to fight for my rights, and how to protect what was left of my sanity. I knew I had to get her out of my life, but I also wanted to make her pay for what she'd done. I wasn't going to let her walk away scot-free. She thought she was clever, but I was determined not to let her manipulate me anymore. I reached out to a lawyer who specialized in family law and fraud cases. She told me I had a solid case for recovering the money from the sale of our house, especially since she forged my signature. It was illegal, and I had proof. I also wanted to press charges for fraud and theft. The fact that she gambled away the money she stole from us was the final straw. I knew I had to act fast before she could hide or destroy any more evidence. Meanwhile, Sarah kept up her act, pretending to be the victim. She accused me of betrayal, said I was the one who was cheating, that I had been unfaithful to her emotionally. She even tried to turn the neighbors against me, spreading rumors that I was the one with the secret affairs. But I wasn't buying her lies anymore. I saw through her. I knew she was just trying to manipulate the situation, to make herself look innocent when she was the one who destroyed everything. The emotional was exhausting. I felt anger bubbling inside me, but also a strange sense of clarity. I realized I had to take control of my life again. This wasn't just about money or the house. It was about my dignity, my self-respect, and protecting what little was left of my sanity. I started planning my next moves, gathering evidence, talking to friends and family who knew what she was capable of. I knew I had to be smart, patient, and relentless if I wanted to get justice. One thing I learned from all this is that betrayal cuts deep, and sometimes it feels like your whole world is crashing down. But I also learned that you can't let someone else's actions define you. I was hurt, angry, and betrayed, but I was also determined to fight back. I wasn't going to let her get away with it all, not without a fight. And I knew I had to stay strong, no matter how hard it got. Once I had the legal groundwork laid out and enough evidence to back up my claims, I started to feel a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had a plan, some leverage to fight back, but dread because I knew this wasn't going to be easy. Sarah, of course, didn't take kindly to me digging into her affairs. She doubled down on her lies, acting innocent, claiming I was the one cheating or doing something shady. She would cry, throw tantrums, and accuse me of betrayal, but I kept my distance. I knew her game. She was trying to spin it so I'd look like the bad guy, the unfaithful one. One day, she went full bitch mode. She started calling my friends and family, telling them I was mentally unstable, that I was the one who'd been cheating behind her back, and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She even brought up stuff from years ago, trying to paint me as a bad husband. It was classic Sarah, lying, twisting facts, and trying to control the narrative. I had to stay calm, not react. I knew her tactics. I knew she was trying to manipulate everyone around her to turn against me, to make me look like the villain. Meanwhile, I kept working on my case. I contacted a forensic accountant to trace the money she gambled away to see if I could get some of it back. The bank statements showed she'd blown through the $350, $0 in just a few months. Online poker, betting at casinos, even some shady offshore accounts. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. I couldn't believe she'd risked everything. Our home, our savings, her own integrity for some quick thrills and a few quick bucks. She was reckless, selfish, and honestly a damn liar. I also started thinking about how to confront her in a way that would make her squirm. I wanted her to realize I wasn't just some naive husband who got played. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I had evidence and allies. I hired a private investigator to follow her, just to confirm her whereabouts and see if she was meeting anyone else. Turns out, she was still sneaking around, meeting with Mark, even after I'd confronted her. That was the last straw. I realized she had no intention of stopping or even pretending to change. So I decided to play her game. I knew she was all about control and lies, so I started gathering more evidence of her. Deception, screenshots, recordings, anything I could use. I even set up a hidden camera in the house, just to catch her in the act again if she tried to deny anything. I didn't want to be impulsive, but I also knew I had to be prepared. I wanted her to see that I was serious about fighting for what's rightfully mine, our house, our savings, and my dignity. In the meantime, she kept throwing accusations at me, claiming I was a bad husband, that I'd been unfaithful, that I'd betrayed her first. She would scream at me, call me names, try to make me feel guilty. But I refused to play her game anymore. I knew her tricks: gaslighting, guilt-tripping, playing the victim. I just kept my distance, focused on my evidence, and stayed calm. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving up or backing down. Honestly, I felt a mix of rage and sadness. Rage because I'd been played for a fool, and sadness because I'd lost the woman I thought I knew. But I also knew I couldn't let her win. I had to be strategic. I started preparing for the legal battle ahead, knowing it would be messy and emotional. I also reached out to friends who had seen her manipulative side before, asking for support and advice. I needed allies, even if just for moral support. One thing I realized through all this is that betrayal is a slow poison. It eats away at your trust, your confidence, and your sense of security. But it also awakens a fierce determination. I wasn't just fighting for money or a house. I was fighting for my dignity, my self-respect, and my future. I knew Sarah thought she could control everything, but I was about to show her that I was not so easily manipulated. I was ready to fight, and I wasn't going to stop until I got justice. By the time I had all my evidence lined up and the legal paperwork ready, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. Sarah, of course, wasn't going down without a fight. She ramped up her manipulations, accusing me publicly of all sorts of crap, saying I was the one cheating, that I was an unfaithful, lying husband. She even tried to turn our friends and family against me, telling tall tales about how I was abusive or mentally unstable. Her words stung, but I knew better. I knew her game. I decided to confront her directly, thinking that maybe, just maybe, I could get her to admit something. I called her out one evening, telling her I had enough of her lies, that I knew about her affair, her forgery, the gambling. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, trying to act innocent. Then she started spinning her stories, denying everything, claiming I was paranoid, that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She said I was the one who had been unfaithful, that I'd been secretly seeing someone else. I just shook my head. I knew her tactics. I'd seen her do this before. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt a mixture of anger, disappointment, and heartbreak. I'd loved her once, believed in us, and now I was sitting across from a woman who had betrayed everything we built. I was furious that she'd forged my signature to sell our house, our home. That she'd gambled away the money, risking everything we had for her own selfish pleasure. It was like a punch to the gut every time I thought about it. And yet, I also felt a strange sense of relief. At least now I knew the truth. No more secrets, no more lies. I remember that night vividly. I sat on the couch, staring at her, trying to keep my composure. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something to make her see how much she'd hurt me, but I held back. Instead, I told her I was going to take her to court, that I would fight for my rights and the money she stole. I told her I had enough evidence to prove her guilt, and I was prepared to go all the way. Her reaction. She scoffed, said I was just trying to ruin her life, that she'd do the same to me if she could. That was a turning point. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not as my wife, not as a person. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone cold, manipulative, and selfish. I decided then and there that I was going to fight for my house, my money, and my dignity, no matter how much she tried to fight me. I contacted a lawyer and we started preparing for the legal battle. I knew it would be easy, that she'd try to drag it out, lie, and manipulate her way out of it, but I was ready. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Sarah continued her smear campaign, trying to paint me as the bad guy. She'd call my work, send messages, and even try to get some of our mutual friends to turn against me. But I stayed focused. I had my evidence, my witnesses, and my resolve. I knew that once we went to court, her lies would unravel. I started compiling everything: bank statements, text messages, recordings, everything I could to prove her deception. I wasn't just fighting her, I was fighting to reclaim what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, I kept a close eye on her. I had the private investigator tail her, confirm her meetings with Mark, and document her whereabouts. It was ugly, but I needed to be sure about what she was doing. Every day, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I was angry that she'd betrayed me, that she'd stolen from us, and that she'd lied so convincingly. But I also felt heartbreak, losing the woman I'd loved, watching her become this manipulative stranger. It was a lot to handle, but I knew I had to stay strong. One thing I learned from all this is that betrayal reveals a person's true nature. Sarah's actions showed me she was capable of anything: lies, theft, manipulation, even cheating on me with her boss. I realized I'd wasted so much time trying to fix what was broken, but some things just aren't fixable. And the more I uncovered, the more I understood that I deserved better. I deserved honesty, respect, and trust, not a woman who'd betray me at every turn. So I prepared myself for the fight ahead, knowing that I might lose some sleep, some friends, maybe even some faith in humanity. But I also knew this was about more than just money or a house. It was about standing up for myself, reclaiming my dignity, and not letting her get away with destroying everything we built. I was ready to face whatever came next, because I refused to be a victim anymore. The court date finally arrived after months of legal battles, and I knew this was the culmination of everything I'd been fighting for. Sarah, of course, was still spinning her web of lies, trying to sway the judge. With her bitchy smirk and fake tears, she claimed I was the one cheating, that I'd been unfaithful, and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She even brought up things from years ago, trying to paint me as some kind of bad husband. But I had enough evidence to drown her out: texts, bank statements, recordings, witness testimonies, all pointing to her guilt. When the judge called the case, I felt a strange mixture of anxiety and relief. I knew I had done everything I could to prepare. As I took the stand, I laid out the facts: how she forged my signature, sold our house without my consent, gambled away the proceeds, and lied about everything. I presented the evidence: bank statements showing the stolen money, the hotel receipts, the private investigator's reports confirming her meetings with Mark. I watched her squirm under cross-examination, her bitchy attitude slipping just a little. Her reaction was classic. She tried to deny everything, claiming I was trying to manipulate the system, that I was the one at fault. But the judge wasn't buying it. The dam broke when I presented the forged signatures and the bank records. The courtroom was silent as the evidence was laid out. When the judge finally ruled, it was a bitter victory. She was ordered to pay back the $350, $0 from the house sale, plus damages for the fraud and theft. The court also ordered her to cease all contact with Mark and to stay away from any further illegal activities. That day, I felt a strange sense of vindication. It wasn't just about winning the case, it was about reclaiming my life. The judge's decision felt like a slap in the face for her manipulations, a reminder that justice still existed. But the victory was bittersweet. I realized I'd lost a lot: trust, my marriage, and my sense of security. I'd been betrayed on every level, and even though I had won legally, emotionally, I was left with a deep wound. After the court, I started the long process of rebuilding myself. I moved out of the house she had sold, found a new place to live, and began focusing on healing. I contacted a therapist to help me cope with the emotional fallout. I also reached out to friends and family who had supported me through the ordeal. Their backing reminded me I wasn't alone, even if it felt like the world was crashing down around me. I knew I had to focus on my own well-being now. No more distractions, no more lies. Sarah, predictably, didn't take the court's decision well. She tried to fight it, filing appeals and making accusations that I was trying to ruin her life. But I had the evidence, and I knew I had done everything by the book. Her bitchy attitude was on full display, but I didn't care anymore. I was done playing her game. I had won the legal battle, and now I was just trying to move forward. I blocked her number, cut ties with her social media, and focused on rebuilding my life. The hardest part was accepting that I'd been played for a fool, that I'd loved someone who didn't deserve my trust. But I also realized I'd learned a lot about myself in the process. I learned to listen to my instincts, to be cautious with whom I trust, and to stand up for myself no matter how intimidating the opponent. I learned that betrayal can come from the people closest to you, and sometimes the only way to truly heal is to face the pain head on and take back control. Looking back, I see it as a painful but necessary lesson. I'll never forget how she lied, cheated, and stole from me, but I also see the strength I found in standing up for myself. I'm still healing, still trying to trust again, but I know I'm stronger now. I want anyone reading this to know that even in the darkest moments, there's a way out. Justice may be slow, but it's worth fighting for. And sometimes, the greatest victory is simply reclaiming your life after it's been shattered. In the end, I realized that betrayal leaves scars no matter how much you try to brush them off. Sarah's lies, her manipulations, her theft, all of it changed me in ways I never expected. I used to think trust was the foundation of any relationship, but now I see that sometimes the foundation is rotten from the start. Still, I also learned that resilience matters just as much. How you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and decide to move forward. I've come to accept that some people are just incapable of honesty, and sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. I've learned to listen to my gut more carefully, to recognize red flags sooner, and to value myself enough to walk away when someone shows their true colors. The process of fighting back, of reclaiming what was stolen from me, was brutal but necessary. It's made me realize my own strength and the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it feels impossible. Looking back, I see a lot of pain, yes, but I also see growth. I see the lessons about boundaries, about trust, and about never letting anyone take control of your life without a fight. I've started rebuilding from the ashes, slowly but surely. I've learned to prioritize my health, my happiness, and my future. The betrayal hurt, but it also woke me up, made me realize I deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty. If someone can't give me that, then I don't need them in my life. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, don't ignore your instincts. Listen to that little voice inside you that says something's wrong. Don't justify bad behavior, no matter how much you love someone. And don't be afraid to fight back, even if it feels like the world is against you. Justice might take time, but it's worth every second. The pain of betrayal is real, but so is the possibility of healing. I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret fighting for my rights or exposing her lies, because now I can finally breathe easier. I can sleep at night knowing I did everything I could to protect myself and my future. And most importantly, I can look at myself in the mirror and be proud of how far I've come. Life threw me a curveball I never saw coming, but I've learned to catch it, swing, and hit back. I've learned that sometimes the biggest victory is just surviving and moving on stronger than before. And that, in itself, is enough.